Welcome to The Explainer here on Buy or Buy. Today, we are breaking down absolutely everything you need to know about a modern legend. We're talking about the 2021 to 2023 Ford Mustang Mach 1. Built at the Flat Rock Assembly Plant in Michigan, this car is, without a doubt, the ultimate swan song of the S550 generation. I mean, this is it, the final, glorious chapter before the S650 Dark Horse took over. It's the very last naturally aspirated 5-liter plus V8 manual Mustang ever offered. If you care at all about pure driving engagement, you are going to love this. Right out of the gate, we kind of have to make the joke here. The Mach 1 is basically what happens when Ford decides to play Frankenstein. Seriously. They took a standard Mustang GT, snuck into the Shelby GT350 part spin to steal the intake and gearbox, then raided the GT500 part spin for the rear wing and splitter. Then they slap a $53,000 base price tag on the whole shebang, sell it for just 3 model years, and kill it off forever when the S650 generation rolls around without a manual GT and without a GT350. Sounds like absolute madness, right? But honestly, it created a masterpiece. Section 1, the part spin masterpiece. Borrowing from the best. So beyond its unmistakable silhouette, especially if you find one draped in signature colors like Twister Orange or Fighter Jet Gray, the hardware is what really sets this apart. The regular 460 horsepower Mustang GT just doesn't get these parts. Thanks to the GT350 open-air intake box and intake manifold, this engine breathes better, bumping it up 20 extra horsepower. You're also getting standard MagneRide adaptive dampers, massive Brembo 6-piston front brakes, and an active valve performance exhaust right out of the box. Oh, and if you find one with the optional handling package, you get a GT500 rear wing with a Gurney flap, those aggressive dive planes, and incredibly sticky Cup 2R compound tires. Section 2, Powertrain and Performance Specs, the third-generation Coyote. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand the soul of the Mach 1, you just have to look under the hood. It uses the third-generation 5.0-liter Coyote V8. We're talking 480 horsepower at a screaming 7,000 RPM and 420 pound-feet of torque at 4,600 RPM. And yes, it revs all the way out to a 7,500 RPM redline. What really makes this the most refined naturally aspirated V8 Ford built before the S650 era is its dual injection system. It perfectly combines port and direct fuel injection, which gives you cleaner cold start emissions, but massive high RPM power. Now, to get all that power to the rear wheels, you have 2 choices. The 10R80 10-speed automatic with its upgraded torque converter is genuinely blisteringly fast. It nails 0 to 60 in just 3.9 seconds, which, fun fact, is actually slightly quicker than the manual. But listen, the enthusiast choice, the one to own for value and pure driving engagement, is the Tremec TR-3160 6-speed. Sourced straight from the GT350, it features a twin-disc clutch, short-throw shifter, and defeatable rev matching. It is just vastly superior to the regular GT's famously notchy MT82 gearbox. It's a real game-changer. Section 3, the values sweet spot, the 2026 used market matrix. So why are we focusing so heavily on this specific car right now? Well, because the Mach 1 is the undisputed value king of the current used sports car market. Think about it. The standard GT trades for 25 to 40 grand, but it totally lacks that Tremec gearbox and standard MagneRide. On the high end, the Shelby GT350 trades between 50 and 90,000, and the GT500, that demands an eye-watering $75 to $130,000. The Mach 1 brilliantly illustrates how you can get 95% of the GT350 driving experience, vastly better daily drivability, and modern amenities like Apple CarPlay and a digital gauge cluster, all for a fraction of the Shelby price. We're talking $38,000 to $58,000. That specific window is exactly where the magic happens. The base 2021 models trading closer to 38 to 48 grand, that is your ultimate value pick. Meanwhile, those final year 2023 examples, with roughly 10 to 25,000 miles sitting in the upper 46 to 58,000 range, those are the pristine time capsules that future collectors are absolutely going to chase down. Section 4, known issues and costs, the brutal reality check. All right, let's get serious for a second. What is it actually going to cost you to run this S550 platform? First up is the Gen 3 Coyote's documented oil consumption. It is well known to burn about 1 quart of oil every 2,000 to 3,000 miles. Now, don't panic. Ford actually issued a technical service bulletin confirming this is perfectly acceptable behavior and not a fatal defect. It's basically just a quirk of the piston rings, so you just need to keep a close eye on your dipstick. That said, there are some pretty hefty maintenance bills you need to be prepared for.
Those amazing MagneRide dampers, they wear out between 60 and 100,000 miles, and replacement costs a steep $1,200 to $2,200 per corner. Spark plugs also have a higher failure rate on the Gen 3, running $800 to $1,200 to swap out at 60K miles. The active exhaust valve actuators can fail, which is another $800 to $1,500. And notoriously, the AC evaporator core is prone to microleaks. Fixing that requires a complete dashboard removal, which can easily run you up to $2,500.
So the crucial point here is that if you go for the handling package, that extreme track hardware carries massive consumable costs. Those sticky Cup 2R compound tires, they only last 8 to 15,000 miles and cost up to $4,500 a set. That aggressive front splitter is going to scrape on literally every driveway because there's no front lift available, and replacing it is another $8 to $1,500. Also, the bulletproof Tremec manual has a very common cold grind into second gear. It disappears once warm, so it's a quirk, not a defect. Finally, beware of heavily track-abused cars. There are very rare oil pump gear failures that can cost $3,500 to $5,500 if it completely kills the engine.
Section 5. Comparisons and fair compromises. What the Mach 1 isn't. Look, to be totally fair and transparent, the Mach 1 does make some compromises compared to its heavier-hitting siblings. Compared to the Shelby GT350, the Mach 1 is slightly heavier at 3,855 pounds versus the Shelby's 3,790. It lacks the GT500's crazy supercharger drama, and it lacks the GT350's flat-plane crank Voodoo V8. I mean, that 8,250 RPM Voodoo scream is genuinely a once-in-a-lifetime engine experience. But, and this is a big but, the Mach 1 makes up for that lack of exotic drama by being a far more reliable and usable daily driver. If we put it up against the broader market, its immediate successor, the S650 Dark Horse, pushes 500 horsepower on a new chassis, but used ones are going to set you back 65 to 80 grand. Over at Chevy, the Camaro 1LE offers a similar 455 horsepower from its naturally aspirated LT1 for similar money, while the 650 horsepower supercharged ZL1 demands $50,000 to $65,000 used. When you look at the entire landscape, the Mach 1's price point just makes it an incredibly well-rounded, unbeatable proposition.
Section 6. The final verdict. The ultimate used Mustang in 2026.
Let's move to the actionable stuff and see how this builds into a solid buying strategy. Before you pull the trigger, here is your rock-solid checklist to avoid buying a lemon. First, verify those oil consumption records. Remember, 1 quart per 2,000 to 3,000 miles is perfectly normal, but more than that is highly concerning. Check that the expensive 60K spark plug service was actually done. Confirm those pricey MagneRide dampers function smoothly in all the drive modes. Inspect that front splitter for severe scraping or cracking, and finally, make sure the Tremec shifts cleanly once it's warmed up.
So, what's the verdict? It is a massive, definitive buy. The Mach 1 is absolutely the smartest used Mustang you can buy in 2026. You are getting authentic GT35 parts, MagneRide, Brembo brakes, and that glorious Tremec manual for literally half the price of a Shelby, while keeping almost the exact same level of driving thrill. As the absolute final naturally aspirated manual S550 ever built, my question to you is, are you going to secure this masterpiece before collectors price you out of it forever? Think about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for joining me today on this explainer from Buy or Buy.